Alright, so we're going to look at the weather over here. We got CFPS, which is the new way of checking out everything, and this is how you use it. So you got some presets up here. If you really wanted to, you need an account to do that, but they are very handy. If you don't have presets, you just have to type in your airports manually. So we got Springbank, hit the space button, it'll put it in. CFX6, space button will also put it in, and then we're going to find out what we want. So route radius 25 miles is always a good one to have, so it'll give you 25 miles either side of the line that you're going to fly. Sigmets, airmets, no temps will get a little later. Metar, TAF, PIRAP, upper wind. Some radar stuff if you wanted, clouds, icing, turbulence. Especially with the winds. If you're not getting winds, make sure you have Calgary listed in here as well. That'll help get you your winds. And then we'll search, and then you can display different things. You can sort it by type, tends to be the best way to go. And then you have ways to filter it. So you can filter your columns if you just wanted METARs. You could just get METARs for everything, or you could filter by specific stuff, or you could exclude. So you could be like, don't give me METARs. And then it'll give you everything but METARs if you hit that exclude button. In our case, we're just going to leave it blank and start running through. So start going through a little bit of a PIRAP here. Non-urgent over CVF2. I don't know where that is, so we'll go ahead and Google where that airport is and see if it's relevant. So you have Bicycle, so just east of Calgary. So they're reporting at 5,500 feet, 172 is showing moderate turbulence. And then that was en route between High River and CFV2, which we just found out is Bicycle, so maybe something to look out for. Then we got some METARs for Springbank, not much going on. Light winds out of the northeast, looks like at 7 knots. No cloud, really, that's relevant. Scattered at 10,000, we can't even go that high, really. Temperature is about 14, dew point spread's high. Random altimeter setting is pretty close to standard. Same thing for Calgary, not really showing much. Then we can go down to the TAFs. So if we were departing at, right now, call it 22Z, what would we be forecasting? Well, from 22Z at 15th day of the month, showing 350, 15 gust 25, 6 mile viz broken at 8,000 feet. Temporarily between now and 020 Zulu, 6 miles light shower and rain. So maybe we'll find some rain showers en route, potentially. And then Calgary is also reflecting that, showing around 23Z or so. We'll get some shower and rain. And a little bit lower ceilings, broken at 4,000. This is AGL, but that should be more than enough for us still. And you got your upper winds. This is what we need for our nav logs. So this one valid from 18Z for use between 12 and 00Z. So if we were departing now at 22Z, we might want to take a later one. Actually, that would be the right one, so between here and 0Z. So this would be the one, otherwise later in the day might be 03 to 12Z the following day. Between 6,000 9,000 feet, we're at 7.5, so you can read between the lines a little bit. So you got 360 to 010, halfway up is probably about 050, call it interpolating. And then 20 to 26, halfway between is going to be 23. So our wind today is going to be 005 at 23 knots. Then you got some upper temps as well that we'll use later on. So between -6 and -13, got probably difference of 6 or 7, so -9, we'll call it -10, around there. So before I forget, we had 005 degrees at 23 knots, and the temperature is going to be -10 degrees Celsius. Carry that down, it's not going to change leg to leg. And then I can go back to the computer to look at the rest of the weather quickly, just for our own planning's sake. So we got some radar showing a little bit of rain coming off the mountains, or at least these are echo tops, so we don't know really what's below them, but definitely some precipitation. And not really showing much on the actual rain radar, so might be isolated some showers out there as well. And then GFA looks a little messy, cold front coming in, thunderstorms, overall high ceilings. Probably not a day you'd want to go solo, because especially coming back, you'll be facing some of those storms. You know, looking later into the day at 0Z, definitely moving a lot closer to Springbank, so maybe not a day you want to go solo. Could be a day maybe you could go deal with an instructor proceeding with caution. A little bit of turbulence down to the south, and then up north as well with all that front stuff coming in. So you'll make the conditions, you look at the weather and you'll make a decision based on the conditions of the day, but you definitely want to look at that first the day of before you even start planning everything, because if it's not worth going, no sense planning out your entire nav log.
Okay, so indicate airspeed will save till last. It's a little bit more involved. We got to figure out our correction angle, true heading, magnetic heading, ground speed, time, and fuel required, and that's all going to be day of based on our winds that we just got right here. Normally that'd be actually written in pencil. That was my bad. Yeah, correction angle, true heading, magnetic heading. If you pull up a CX3 here, there's a couple ways to do it. We'll boot this guy up. If you go under your flight menu, you could do this all manually. You could find your ground speed based on distance and duration. You could go, I believe it's called wind correction. And then that would be the one you'd want to use first. You put in your true airspeed. So we'll clear this guy out here. So true airspeed, pull from this guy. Got 103, get that there. True course for our first line is going to be our true track, so 172. 172. True heading, we're trying to solve for that. Wind speed showing 23 knots, and we're going to be showing 005. And then we'll compute all that. So wind correction angle is going to be -3. True heading is going to give us right under here, so 169. Magnetic heading, we can pull off of the correction angle. So magnetic track is going to be 158 -3 of our correction angle is going to be 155. And then we've got a ground speed. So ground speed is going to be in here, right up here, 125.28, so call it 125. Not too bad for ground speed. And then you got time and fuel required, which is a separate window. So you go into here. Might be under here, let's see. So you'd have to go ground speed for the time. You go under, so we got ground speed, it's going to be 125.28. Remember that number, and then our distance is going to be 4 miles. And so that gives us about 2 minutes roughly in time. And then you again have to go back, figure out your fuel. Volume, we don't know, we're trying to solve for that. Duration, it's going to be hour 54, so remember that. And then rate, we're going to go 6.1. So that gives us about 0.2 gallons, roughly. Now, that's one way to do it, knowing where your tools are. There's a better way to do it. If you go under plan, you can build an entire navigation log in here. So you got trip totals, we'll get that at the end. Leg 1, should remember all the distances and whatnot. So we got 5 miles, true course. It's actually not 005, so we'll put that in there. So true course, true track's gonna be 172. And our distance is gonna be 4 miles. True speed's 103. Wind direction is now 005 at gonna be 23 knots. Variations 14 east, and deviation we'll say 0 for now unless you had access to a compass card. Fuel rate's gonna be 6.1. And then your departure time, you could put that in if you want, it doesn't really matter. You could say 2200 Zulu. And then that's going to give us our calculated values, assuming that that's all thrown in there. So we got 4, 172, 35. That all looks correct to me. So calculated values, you got pretty much the same thing, 125.8. Compass heading of 155 and magnetic heading compass. The difference between these two is deviation, basically. So take 155 as our heading. True heading is going to be 169, wind correction angle minus 3.2 gallons, about 2 minutes, and then adds 2 minutes to our ETA based on that. So that's leg 1 done. That was a lot quicker. And we can go to leg 2. So what's our new distance? It's going to be 48 now, a little bit further, and our new course is going to be 127. True airspeed's still the same, so is the wind direction and the variation, deviation, and all fuel burn departure times based off of the last one. Then you got your calculated values. So now your ground speed's going to be 113.32, so call it 113. And compass heading, same as magnetic heading because we don't have deviation, 102. Magnetic heading. True heading, if you wanted, would be 116. Wind correction angle minus 11. And then your fuel is going to be 2.5 gallons roughly. Call it 2.6 to be conservative. We need at least that much fuel. And then ETE is going to be 25 minutes, so 0.24. Call it 26 minutes. And then DTA is now 22.27. So that was a lot easier. And you can go back and get to all your totals. So you go trip totals, and then you have total distance is 52 miles. Now keep in mind this is including all our climb and everything, which you'd have to factor in. So we'll put in 52 up here. Actually, sorry, that's just the 48 and the 4 that we used. Then we got 2 and 26, so you get about 28 minutes, call it. And then your fuel required is in liters, so we're going to go convert unit into US gallons, so 2.78, call it 2.88 gallons required. So that's all calculated there. Now we got to go to the summation table. Total fuel on board, I'm going to assume that well, the time we'll leave blank for now, and then the gallons, we're starting off with 40 if we had full tanks. Now startup, taxi, and run up, if we're just doing one leg, it's going to be 1.1 gallons. Climb at a full rich mixture is going to be kind of 1.3 gallons of fuel, roughly. And then time to climb is going to be 8 minutes. Cruise, so take the sum of these two guys. So we got fuel required is 2.8, and the time required for cruise is going to be 28 minutes. And then we got a 20% lean allowance coming back to this guy because we run a little bit more rich. This 2.8 is going to be not quite what we actually burn. And so I'm going to take 20% of 2.8. Let's go to the calculator. 2.8 times 0.2. It's going to give you half a gallon roughly that I'm going to add. Call it 0.6, be conservative. Okay, so 0.6 gallons, and then circuit to land takes us 10 minutes-ish for a circuit, call it 15 minutes for a circuit max, depending on traffic patterns and whatnot. Now 15 minutes is 0.25 of an hour, and we're burning about 6.1 gallons an hour, so times 6.1 gives me about 1.5 gallons per circuit. So I'll call it 10 minutes, 1.5 gallons per circuit, roughly. If you didn't want to do this fancy math, you could just go back to your flight and then do a fuel calculation based on 10 minutes of circuit at 6.1 gallons an hour. Leg reserve, 30 minutes per day. So for 6.1, if we're running for half of an hour, and that's in 1 hour, going to burn about 3.1 gallons an hour, 3.05 rounded up to 3.1. Planned contingency, what is this? This is essentially any extra fuel that you would want to take for weather deviation, ATC delays, airplanes being old, that kind of stuff, factoring in, because when you total all this up, your employer will want to see that you can take off with exactly this much fuel, and he's always going to want you to take off with a minimum amount of fuel because it costs money to haul extra fuel. And so I'm going to say planned contingency of about a half hour. Let's call it 30 minutes, roughly. And so another 3.1 gallons. And then that way I'm safe in that regard. And so we should be landing with about an hour of fuel on board, which is enough that I could divert to a nearby airport if needed. If you were doing the return leg, you could do all this as well. So you put in another climb, cruise, and then another 2-3 legs going back into Springbank, and then you'd have total fuel out and back. But we're just going to do one way for today. Time fuel required for the trip. Summation of all of these, well, minus the planned contingency, you don't need to sum that into the total. So we got 8 plus another 28 plus another 10. It's going to give you 46. And then all these guys got 1.1 plus 1.3 plus 2.8 plus 0.6, 1.5, and call it 6.2. So I just took those two and summed the two, 6.2. So 13.5. In theory, I should be comfortable taking off with 13.5 gallons in my tank as measured by the dipstick and going all the way to Vulcan. I'll still have about an hour of fuel. So that's not that much fuel in retrospect, and that is why it's important to do these calculations right. This is what you'll want to be doing as a commercial pilot if you choose to go there. You got actual fuel remaining down near the end. That'll be, in theory, we're taking off. We got 13.5 gallons, but really we're actually taking off with 40 gallons. And so 40 gallons over 6 gallons an hour. 6 gallons an hour. 6.1 is about 6 hours on board of actual endurance, realistically, assuming we're running at cruise the whole time. We're not factoring in rich mixture and whatnot. And then you also have your gallons, so we're actually taking off with 40 gallons if we had full tanks, for example. So now that's the front side done. Actually, indicated airspeed, we've got to do that one as well. So indicated airspeed is done in 2 parts, and this one is often confused by a lot of people. You have to go from true airspeed to calibrated airspeed, then calibrated to indicated. So it's a 2-step process. Let's start with going to calibrated. Got true airspeed of 103. What's that going to be in calibrated? We're going to go over to here, over to airspeed. And then true airspeed's 103. What's my outside air temp? Well, it's going to be minus 10 for today. Going to be a Mach number, which is nice. My pressure altitude, based on the conditions of the day, the METAR was showing, call it 29.72, so 29.92 minus 29.72, 0.72, can give me 0.2 times 1,000, gives me about plus 200 feet, and I'm cruising at 7,500 feet, so 200 plus 7,500 feet, gives me a pressure altitude of 7,700 feet, roughly. So I'll put 7,700 feet in my pressure altitude, and I get a calibrated airspeed of 93.5. Now, that's not indicated. We got to factor that in too. So you go to your POH now, performance section, right near the start, and you have to find your airspeed calibration normal static source, not to be confused with the airspeed calibration alternate static source over here. So, normal static source. We're going to be flaps up in cruise, I hope. We're going to be about 93 calibrated. So we'll find the closest one. 93 is pretty close to 89. And 99, difference of 1. So going from calibrated to indicated, 99 goes to 100, 89 goes to 90. So it goes up by 1. So I'm going to take that 93.5 I got, round it up to 94, plus 1 to get to indicated, gives me 95 miles, correction, knots. And that's not really going to change because I'm not changing my altitude. So over here, 95 knots, carry that down. Good. Now we're done this side. With the exception of if you want to write in some weather, you can. And then your takeoff and landing distances, as you normally do for every flight, would be thrown in there as well. Now on the back side, we have a little airport diagram that we could draw out. You can do it however you want. If I was going into Vulcan, for example, you could draw on, and you got a little bit of a town there, and then you have the airport running north-south. Got runway 35, 17, and this is very quick and tacky, but you get the idea. and then you draw in, your circuit directions and landing directions. Remember about the right-hand circuits for runway 17 we saw in the CFS, so I'm going to draw that in as well. You can put in your circuit altitude, elevation, airport, so CFX6, and your frequencies, so ATF and whatever, 22.8 or whatever the frequency was, headwind, crosswind based on winds, and then notes. So that's what you'd put there. Finish it off, we got all our times here, so we got our ground speed checks, and all the gray boxes basically are gray because they need to be filled out before flight. So we got 3 left that we need, and that's all the time stuff. So first gray box here is the time elapsed between Springbank and your set heading point, or in other words, how long in theory should it take you to go from Springbank to your set heading point. Well, according to our calculations back here, it would take us 2 minutes plus another 8 minutes for climb, so call it 10 minutes. 10 minutes roughly. And if you get there and it's actually 12 minutes, you're 2 minutes late and you can update your ETA. Estimated time en route. From Springbank, how long is it going to take you to get to Vulcan? Well, you're going to go to Vulcan and you'll basically take the sum of all this time. So according to the timetable, you got your climb's going to be 8 minutes plus another 28 in cruise, another 10 for circuits. So about 46 minutes is going to be when you get there with the circuit. Some choose to do it without the circuit. With the circuit is more accurate in my opinion. Then we got time from your set heading point. So it was going to take us 10 minutes to get to our set heading point, and so thus, logically, you could conclude it's going to take us 36 minutes from our set heading point to get to our destination with that one circuit. And that's it. That's all you put there. Fill out that table, all your other stuff, and then you're on your way. Fully planned. Now you can go show up to the airport, do your pre-flight, get everything ready, and then go for your pre-flight brief, go on your flight. And then during flight will be a separate topic.